Hello, this is how to replace a AC and heater blower motor in a 1993 to 1997 Toyota Corolla. This is pretty much the same for all trim levels, all models between the years 93 and 97. So if you're experiencing symptoms, like I have the key on, we hear a clicking, but unfortunately nothing happens. In this particular car, I have already removed the fan and I tested it on the battery using just some basic speaker wire. I put the two pieces of wire into the terminal on each side of the plug-in and tapped them to the battery going both ways to see if we could get the fan to turn on. It would not. We're going to say that this fan is no good. I also noticed some cracking at the bottom, which can be caused by heat and wear, indicating that this fan is probably just no good. Now, before you go through of tearing the dash out of the car to change the fan, make sure you have checked your fuses and you're not overlooking something simple and making life difficult for yourself. So here's how we're going to be removing the new fan, which if most people aren't going to be putting a used fan in their car, they'll be buying a new one. For me, however, it's just a little bit cheaper and a little bit more easier if we just use a fan that I already have. As I mentioned, that particular Corolla is a 1997. I have a parts car that we're going to be using the fan out of. And I know it's good, so it'll be fine. There's my other 94 Corolla. Here's the 95 Corolla parts car. That one is one that's getting put back together as well. So, in order to remove the fan, you're going to want access to the glove box area. So let's get these floor mats out of the way. Step one, let's open the glove box. And you'll notice right here, there's a Phillips head bolt. We're going to need to remove that one. And then corresponding on the other side, there is another Phillips head bolt. We need to go ahead and remove both of those. So let's go ahead and get those two out of the way. Now, take a small flathead, for example this one, and on each side of the glove box here and here, there are these little plastic covers with tabs at the bottom so you can pop them off, revealing a 10mm nut. Now, you'll need a 10mm and an extension to make it a little easier. We're going to need to remove both of these bolts. So let's go ahead and get those out. Once you have those two bolts out, you can close the glove box. And we're going to move down here to this lower trim area. To make this a little easier, up inside here is a plastic 10mm nut. Usually you can remove it with your hands. And this entire trim panel will pull back out of the way. If you want to completely remove it, there are snap clips running down the length of the car. And ta-da! Just like that, it's out of your way. The reason we do this is down here at the bottom, you have another 10mm bolt and a Phillips head right here. So let's go ahead and get both of these out. Once you have both of those out, move over to the other side, and right up in here in the bottom is one more 10mm bolt. So let's go ahead and take that one out as well. Now once you have that 10mm out on the bottom, we left this center bolt in here until the very end to help hold the glove box up and keep it from sliding around and falling on you. Now it's time we can remove it. And once again, it was located just in the center, right above the handle. Now you should literally be able to, ta-da! And there's your glove box. Notice up here there are plug-ins for your airbag module. This car does not have a battery in it, so I'm not worried. if your car still has a battery in it, you want to take a little bit extra care when popping those off. Now once those are removed, you can literally remove your glove box and have perfect access to the fan. The fan has 3 Torx bolts or flathead. They can be used with either tool. Makes life a little bit easier when working on these cars. However, I just lost my flathead. There it is. So for starters, you'll have the power clip, which is located here for the fan. Just go ahead and unplug that. And come on. Whoops, a little too much force. And then unplug the fan clip from the little metal tab. And you can push that tab over and out of your way, just to give you a little bit more space when wiggling the fan out. Now you have 1 bolt right here. As you can see, it's a Torx or a flathead. 1 bolt here, Torx or flathead. And the final bolt right below the ABS or airbag wire, and it is also a Torx or flathead. So let's remove those 3 bolts. And just like that, out comes your fan motor. You can look up in here to make sure there's no debris lodged in it. You might have to clean this out on your car if there is. The filters look a little dirty. Everything else is okay. Then again, this is a parts car, so it doesn't really matter. Now, before we install this new fan into the new car, I'm going to plug it up and make sure that this one does come on in our new car. Sometimes it can be the blower motor resistor up here. However, taking note that when the other fan was plugged up straight to the battery on my car, it still didn't engage. At 12 volts full power from the battery, it should have spun at its fastest RPM, but it didn't do anything. Odds are the resistor is fine, and it's just the fan. Now, back to the good Corolla. We're going to make sure this switch is off and the key is out. I'm simply going to plug these 2 together. And I'm probably going to have to hold this like this. Make sure your fingers are out of the way. You don't want any nasty cuts. And with it plugged up, I'm going to turn the ignition into the power on position and turn the fan onto a low speed. Good. All the speeds work. Now we know that it was just the fan motor. So let's reinstall the new fan into the car. This is a very easy procedure, pretty much reverse of how we took it out. Install your 3 bolts. Make sure that the square housing on the fan is pointed this way into that housing. When it lines up correctly, it'll actually pop up in there a little bit higher. Install all your bolts. Don't forget to plug the fan up itself. The 97 doesn't have a bracket to hold the wire up, so we're just going to tuck it out of the way right here. Next, let's grab the glove box assembly. Once you get it lined up, there's little snap tabs right here and across this top that line everything up correctly. Once that's in there, let's grab some of these Phillips head bolts and put them in there first just to kind of hold everything in place. There we go. We got one in. Let's see if I can find another. Now this 97 Corolla was actually missing a few parts. A few bolts, I should say, that the gold one still had. This car wasn't... I think someone had already been in here once to fix a problem. Maybe even to check the blower motor. Or maybe the fuses that are located back there. But however, when they reinstalled it, they kind of left me a few parts. Next, we'll take the 10mm bolts and start those back in place. These are some of those pieces that I was mentioning that did not get reinstalled in this car. If you remember correctly, the other Corolla also had 10mm bolts at the bottom. I'm missing one on this side. I'm probably going to go and we're going to get the other bolts from the other Corolla to use in this one. You want to make sure that nothing's going to rattle or squeak. It would drive me insane. So, there's one. There's two, and I'll go back with a ratchet and tighten everything down right. And on your car, you're going to want to reinstall the Phillips head screw that we removed from here, reinstall the 10mm in that hole there, and the other 10mm in this hole right there. So I'm actually going to go get those bolts from the other car, and the last step to do is to grab the trim panel and just snap it back into place. So give me 1 second. Now with all the dash bolts back in, it's time to pop the trim in. As you see, it has little plastic clips, 3 of them to be exact, going down the side. We're going to start that corner, line it up like that. Ta-da! Push this corner into that bolt hole right there, and then don't forget about your plastic 10mm screw cap. I'm also missing from this car, but look, we got the other bolts in. They're back behind here. The other 10 is now in place. Everything's firm, no squeaking. And last but not least, to check your work, is the glove box latch. Took it a second. We might can adjust that. And the whole source of the problem, the fan. Key switch on. Oh, that is awesome. Fan is working good. Now, in my case, I get to move on to try to fixing the air conditioning, which is missing a belt, and who knows what else. In your case, you now have a fan blower motor and you're ready to hit the road. Guys, thanks so much for watching this tutorial on how to change a blower motor on a 93 to 97 Toyota Corolla. As I mentioned before, we have 4 of these Corollas. If there's anything else you would like to see, make sure to hit that subscribe button at the bottom, drop a comment and let me know. This one we haven't actually had very long, so there will be plenty of repairs coming on it. We're going to be doing a timing belt video, which I have a walkthrough on a timing belt video up already. It's not very in-depth, so it's basically good for just helping you through it, not so much a how-to. Once again, this one doesn't have air conditioning, but the gold one over there does, and it works. Or it did before we robbed the fan motor. So we're going to take parts from it to work this one, and hopefully we'll have air conditioning. And if there's anything else you'd like to see, once again, drop a comment below, thumbs up this video if you enjoyed, and hit subscribe at the bottom. It always helps. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Stay awesome.